When I look to the future, I see both really positive aspects and negative aspects. I see being able to understand much more about other people, and this can be good both in a business and in a marketing context. But I also see the potential for lots of abuse, where businesses can understand too much about us and our data can get out of control. My background is in human-computer interaction, so I've always been interested in how people work with computers. When you add people to the mix, it gets much more complicated, much more messy, but much more interesting as well. What we found is that while there's a lot of work being done on understanding sentiment and aggregate opinions from social media, there was very little work done really understanding individuals at a deep level. So that is the direction that we've been heading, in modeling and understanding individuals so that marketers could approach them in the right way. Direct marketing in the United States in 2012, companies spent $170 billion on marketing, and yet the response rate is only about 2%, maybe a little bit more for direct mail, a lot less for online marketing. So that means that companies are spending $165 billion sending people messages that they don't want to receive. And so this money could be spent a whole lot better. The people could get a whole lot less annoyed by all these messages that are coming at them if they could just be directed better. If the messages could be more relevant, that if instead of receiving 10,000 advertising contacts a month, maybe you'd receive 100, but they'd really be relevant to who you are and the kinds of things that you're interested in. Our research got inspired by a lot of work that comes out of the psychology community. What the psychologists found is that the types of language that people use reflects their personality. So the kinds of words, how often you use the first person pronouns versus second person pronouns, words about food, words about work, all of these reflect your underlying personality. And what I found is, looking at Twitter, you do not need a very large sample of Twitter tweets to get a fairly stable measure of their language use. So that with 100 tweets, you can get, say, on average, plus or minus 10% of the measurements of how they're using language as you would if you had 1,000 tweets. And so once you have that language, we have various models that we are continually building, evolving for measuring personality, how you interact with the world. And this includes traits such as extroversion. Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Conscientiousness. How organized and hardworking are you? Agreeableness. Are you easygoing? Are you uptight? Neuroticism, which always gets a laugh, but the psychologists use neuroticism as a way of describing emotional stability. How prone are you to negative emotions? So all these different types of personality dimensions, which are all really kind of relevant in the marketing context. You know, if somebody is prone to negative emotions in your marketing message, you want to be reassuring. If somebody is not prone to negative emotions, then perhaps you can stress the features, how many different things you can do with whatever you're selling. Every time I talk about this in public, people react sort of a little bit viscerally. I mean, it can be creepy, all the different kinds of things that you can understand from somebody's linguistic footprints, their behavioral footprints online. And they start to think, oh, well, maybe I should be changing my privacy settings. And the default privacy settings on Twitter is that anybody in the world can read what you're doing. And for me, in just the pure scientific pursuit of understanding, this is wonderful, because I have all this data that I can just get at, and that I can really understand how people act in the world. But I don't think that a lot of those people would appreciate the fact that it's out there if they realized all the things that could be done with it.